let's find out what's going on with Simon Calder. He's travel editor at The Independent and is currently, just because he does these things to annoy me, he's on a cruise ship in the Baltic Sea, so at least not affected by the air traffic problems. Good morning to you, Simon.
Oh, yeah, good morning, Julia. And I'm really sorry to say that I've been counting up overnight the number of people stranded out of position. 200,000 people waking up this morning not where they hoped and expected to be because of this. Over 1,200 flights cancelled yesterday, and I'm afraid we've got more than 200 cancelled today. The largest number on EasyJet with over 80, British Airways around 60 cancellations, and Ryanair with about 40. It's an absolute mess. And I'm afraid there will be people who do not get back to the UK for some days, particularly if they're in a far-flung part of the Mediterranean. And I dare say there'll be a few offices looking pretty empty at the moment, or when the working day starts, simply because it's going to be such a so many people just out of position.
And that bank holiday Monday, that is one of the busiest flying weekends. It's sort of, the end of August, the bank holiday, people taking that extra day off work, extra day of holiday. Now it's an extra 2 or 3 days sitting in an airport, not quite the same thing. Do we know yet what actually happened? Because all we found out, well, initial thing yesterday afternoon was that, air traffic had been basically closed. The skies had been closed across the UK. That didn't actually turn out to be the case, but there was a technical fault, we were told, by the National Air Traffic Service. What was that technical fault?
Well, and of course, I have been trying to find since 11:15 yesterday morning, when I started getting calls from airline people, exactly what the problem was. There are various rumours. Of course, there were rumours that it was a hack. I don't actually think that was the case. Foul up is much more likely to be the problem. There is talk in some quarters that a flight plan filed by a French airline contained some errors, and instead of just being rejected by the system, it actually brought the system to a halt. I've got no way of knowing if that is correct, but in the absence of any answers, and of course I've been asking NATS for an explanation, it's the only thing I can bring you.
If that were the case, that is really very shocking, because it's far too easy then to bring the system down. We also understand that the backup system that's supposed to exist in the event of the air traffic system going down, that didn't work. Well, it ain't a backup system then, is it?
Well, I think there are going to be some very robust conversations between the Transport Secretary, Mark Harper, and also the airlines about this, because it's causing immense distress and upset to so many people. On top of that, it cost the airlines tens of millions of pounds, because although they're not going to be paying out any compensation, they do have the obligation to put people up in hotels if they can find any rooms. Yeah. And on top of that, of course, they will be losing revenue from all these cancelled flights.
Yeah, indeed. And again, it just puts people off again and again. We had all that during COVID. People couldn't fly, and then when you could, all the tests and all the disruption, and were you going to have to go into quarantine afterwards or not? And then again, the costs have gone up. A lot of people just saying, I just don't want to risk it anymore. Then we have a rotten summer and people say, do you know what? I'm going to make a break, get a little bit of a trip to Spain or Greece, and then this happens and people can't get back to work. A lot of people, again, non-staff, they'll lose a day's pay or a day's holiday. That's a very, very big deal, possibly even more than that. Talk us through the compensation situation, though, because if an airline is at fault, technical fault from them or something, then you are allowed to claim from the airline, and it could be some significant sums. We got 700 quid from a flight that was delayed wonderfully, 3 hours and 3 minutes. Under 3 hours, we wouldn't have got anything like that, but 3 hours and 3 minutes. We were willing the plane not to come down any sooner at that point. We had the whole plane sitting there going, yes, we've got to get our compensation. But if it's not the airline's fault, they've done nothing wrong in this scenario, who do people get compensation from?
Well, look, there may well be in your travel insurance some clause which says, yeah, every 12 hours you're late getting back, we'll pay you 25 quid, which is not really here or there. On top of that, I'm afraid it will be interesting if you've got some lawyers stranded abroad, if they're going actually to take out a case against NATS, the National Air Traffic Service, basically saying you failed to conduct your operation with due care and professionalism. At this stage, stage, though, nobody is getting any compensation, although you should get recompense for out-of-pocket expenses. And by the way, the train operators are stepping in. So if you were flown into Edinburgh and you're actually trying to get to London, LNER, on proof of this happening, will give you a free train ticket down the East Coast Main Line.
Oh, that's very helpful. And again, there'll be lots of people who will be able to get back if you're, not too far down, down in France. Maybe you'll be able to get back. Many other countries, though, you are kind of too far away. If you're properly overseas, that's not going to be an option. So what should people do? You're saying the hotel accommodation, if that's available, the airlines have to cover that. But and some basic room aboard. But a lot of people are going to say they want the airline to sort that out for them rather than take the risk of booking something and then never getting their money back. But then if you've got kids, you can't be sitting in an airport for 3 days with a 3-year-old.
Well, no, very sadly, thousands of people have spent the night on airport floors. No, the airline has to get you back as soon as it possibly can, including buying tickets on other airlines if that is the best way to get you back. But I'm afraid they are going to say, look, on one of the busiest days of the year, something beyond our control comes in. We cannot find hotel rooms for everybody, but they will not be able to defend any claim that you put in as long as you've got an itemised receipt. Here's the hotel, here's our meal, no alcohol, please.
Yeah, not allowed the alcohol. That's interesting. Always good to hear from you, Simon. Called up.